IWA Trivia History, Jonny B speaks. October 12, 2021. IWA, does the IWA use a PC or a Mac? Jonny B, we use both. I've never personally owned more than one computer at a time. And my current model is a Mac which I've used basically every day for just short of 14 years. The motherboard, CPU, 2 gigs of RAM and power supply are all original components. Despite its age, it's surprisingly snappy, even compared to many modern systems, thanks to RAM and SSD upgrades, as well as the underwhelming progress of the computer industry in the last decade or so. Prior to switching to this Mac, I was building my own PC every 2 or sometimes 3 years, so this 14-year run is pretty unbelievable to me. In the late 90s, I bought a 333 MHz CPU and overclocked it to 516 while the fastest commercially available processor speed was only 450, so mine was both cheaper and faster than the best you could buy. Imagine trying to achieve a 55% increase nowadays. You poor whippersnappers. October 23, 2021. IWA, does Kim really exist or is it truly a nickname assigned to whomever is working the inbox that day? Jonny B. Kim has been handling our email for what seems like forever. I can understand why some may think it's simply a name used by more than one person, considering she doesn't have a memory like Rain Man. On the rare occasions that her email account is used by someone else, primarily me, we state who is writing at the beginning of the message. That signifies to the recipient that they shouldn't assume Kim knows about its contents. There's a lot to be aware of, and adding another person, both of whom would need to stay on the same page throughout the day, would add to the complexity and thus, the error rate. If you compare old IWA emails from many years ago to recent correspondence, you'd probably notice her habit of still hyphenating the word email, even though most of us dropped the hyphen years ago. IWA. Why is it that hold 11th chair shot always sucks across the IWA? Does the IWA secretly hate rule breaking? Jonny B. I don't secretly hate those types of holds, I openly hate them. Okay, hate is much too strong of a word because I do feel they have their place, but for a long time moves like hair pulling and eye gouging were valued rather highly, and that never seemed right to me. Most IWA matches do not have a no disqualification stipulation, and assigning high values to illegal holds means they'll be more likely to show up in the results. I saw that as a problem. I also don't think a win is very impressive if your wrestler has to resort to biting a jobber's ear to get the 3 count. October 31, 2021. IWA. Has any wrestler won every major title in the IWA report? Jonny B. Manager TZ added the final title he was missing to his collection this past August cycle, but I don't believe any wrestler has held them all. If anyone listening is aware of such an accomplishment, please let us know so we can verify it and give them the proper credit. IWA. Has the IWA ever had any in-house artists? Jonny B. Great question. Yes, we did. The first 2 were students from my high school, where the original Jonny B. taught Latin and English for 17 years. One of them is one of my many brothers. As the game continued to grow, my father decided to hire 2 friends, former teachers from that same school who found themselves in need of steady employment. The former math teacher naturally became our accountant and also created logos for several leagues. In later years, we came to rely on our players for artwork, talented managers such as Cody Shibby and Catfish Rob. IWA. What was an event, concept, or league that failed that the IWA had high hopes for? Jonny B. Why, that would have to be unicorn racing, of course. I still find it completely baffling that so few fans of imaginary wrestling were willing to give an extremely similar idea a chance. Shame on all of you. IWA. Has the IWA staff met any players in real life? Jonny B. With a note from the editor of Wrestling World magazine as our only advertising at the beginning, many of the first managers were friends of the family and my fellow high school students. The only non-local player any of us ever met was a teenage manager from Canada who made an unexpected visit to IWA headquarters with his parents on a hot summer afternoon, a pit stop on their way to the nearby amusement parks. The most recent encounter occurred when we had our other sports games available. Someone who played those non-wrestling games happened to live nearby and dropped in to check out our operation. He ended up becoming an employee in our other sports department for a few years. IWA. Did killing the bulk rate help the IWA? Jonny B. Let me put it this way. Either the IWA was going to kill the bulk rate, or the bulk rate was going to kill the IWA. This game/business is very labor-intensive, and comes with major expenses such as photocopier supplies, postage, and salaries. Other than removing the bulk rate option, can you recall the last time we raised our prices? Neither can I. We've always strived to remain an inexpensive hobby, and the way we've been accomplishing that is by cutting costs wherever possible. IWA. What does the IWA do if a check bounces? Jonny B. I believe whoever is responsible for the fee should be the one to pay it, if a check is rejected due to non-sufficient funds. We ask the manager to provide another payment which covers the amount of the check plus the fee our bank charges. If we ever double bill or overbill and it causes a fee for a player, we will reimburse them for the overcharge as well as the fee, and if they choose IWA credit instead of a refund, the amount will be even higher. IWA. How many players have been banned from the IWA? Why have some banned players been allowed to return? Jonny B. The total number is an absolutely minuscule fraction of the thousands and thousands of people who have played over the last 36 years. It is exceptionally rare for a ban from the IWA to be permanent because I'm a firm believer in second chances, particularly when the previous incident occurred in the offender's youth. Consider the infamous case of manager Keith Maple, who was publicly banned for his involvement in a well-known cheating scandal. He was permitted to return and proved himself to be not just a great player, but also a terrific commissioner. IWA. Since doubling a hold can ruin a cycle, would the IWA consider offering a strategy insurance for $1 to allow corrections? Jonny B. While I find the concept intriguing, the logistics of such an endeavor may prove too complex. The diversity in how managers submit their strategies means they must be verified manually, which would slow down processing. Also, it would give online players yet another advantage over those who compete by snail mail. Last but not least, eliminating the possibility of doubled holds also eliminates the possibility of anyone being able to defeat Joe Boring. I simply don't know if we're equipped to implement such a service in an acceptable manner.